My best friend said, "You need closure, not chaos." I said, "Maybe chaos is closure." I wasn't there to win him back. I was there to watch him lie in front of 142 people. But the bride's face? She didn't just look familiar. She looked like family. They say your wedding day is supposed to be the happiest day of your life. A fresh start. A moment frozen in time. But mine? Mine turned into the kind of nightmare you don't wake up from. I remember standing there at the altar, hands slightly trembling, adjusting my cufflinks for the 100th time. Everything was perfect. The California sun filtered through the stained glass. The music was soft. The scent of fresh roses floated in the air. And there I was, moments away from marrying Emily, the woman who helped me rebuild my life after everything fell apart. But nothing prepared me for what happened next. Just as the doors opened for Emily to walk down the aisle, the room shifted. A gasp echoed from somewhere near the back pews. I looked up, expecting to see my bride. Instead, I saw her. Lena, my ex-fiancée, the woman who vanished from my life 3 years ago without a single word. She stood there in a pale blue dress, not bridal, not formal, just there. Her eyes met mine, and for a second, I forgot to breathe. My heart stopped. Time froze. I hadn't seen or heard from Lena since the day she disappeared. No goodbye, no note, not even a text. And now here she was, at my wedding, uninvited. She didn't say a word. She didn't scream or make a scene. She simply walked in, her heels clicking softly against the marble floor, and sat in the very last row. Everyone else turned their heads to whisper, to stare, to wonder who this stranger was. But I knew. God, I knew. I tried to keep it together. My best man leaned in and whispered, "Dude, is that Lena?" I nodded, barely. Emily hadn't even entered yet. What the hell was going on? I forced a smile, swallowed the storm brewing in my gut. The doors opened again. This time it was Emily, my beautiful bride, glowing, smiling, unaware of the grenade that had just landed at the back of the church. As she walked toward me, I could feel my past and present colliding, like two cars racing toward the same cliff. Emily took my hand. I barely heard the officiant's words. My eyes kept drifting back to Lena. She wasn't looking at me anymore. She was staring at Emily, and she looked stunned. Not angry, not sad, not jealous, just shocked, like she'd seen a ghost. I couldn't make sense of it. Why now? Why today? Why like this? When the ceremony ended and people began to head to the reception, I slipped away from the crowd, my mind spinning. I needed air. I needed answers. I needed her to tell me what the hell she was doing here. But before I could even speak to her, Lena found me. Her voice was calm, steady. "Jason, I'm not here to stop the wedding." "Then why are you here?" I asked, barely keeping my voice down. "You disappeared. You ghosted me, Lena. You left me with nothing. Now you just show up like this." She looked over her shoulder toward the reception tent. Then she turned back to me, and what she said next punched the air from my lungs. "I came because of her," she said, nodding toward Emily. "She's my sister." I blinked. "What? Half-sister," she clarified. "Same father. Different mothers." I didn't know until last week. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was insane. "You're lying." "I wish I were," she whispered. And in that moment, everything inside me began to crack. Because for the first time in 3 years, Lena wasn't running. She was chasing the truth, and it was going to ruin everything. I stood there, speechless. The world kept spinning. People were laughing, clinking champagne glasses under white tents. But I was stuck in a moment I couldn't escape. "She's my sister," Lena said again, quieter this time. I looked at her like she was some stranger who'd just torn open a hole in the sky. "You think this is funny?" I asked, my voice low and sharp. "You crash my wedding, say Emily is your sister, and I'm just supposed to believe that." She reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. I brought proof. Inside was a folded piece of paper, an ancestry report, one of those mail-in DNA tests. It had her name on it, and Emily's. I couldn't believe it. The words jumped off the page like fire. Shared parent. 52.3% match. My hands were shaking. "How the hell did you even find this?" She looked exhausted. "It wasn't on purpose. I started digging a few months ago. Something about my family never made sense. I thought I was just looking for my dad's medical history. I never expected this." "So you stalked Emily?" "No. I saw your engagement photo online. A mutual friend posted it. I recognized her face instantly. We had the same nose. Same chin. It haunted me. I paid for a private investigator. He tracked her down. Then the DNA confirmed it. I wanted to scream, or laugh, or run. But all I could do was stare at this woman who once meant everything to me, who left me in the dark, and now brought a storm to my wedding day. "Why didn't you tell me any of this before?" I asked. "Because I didn't even know she existed until a few weeks ago," Lena said. "And I didn't come to hurt you, Jason. I came for answers." I thought maybe she didn't know either. I didn't expect her to be your fiancée. My head was spinning. All the years I spent rebuilding my life after Lena disappeared were collapsing right in front of me. Flashbacks hit me like gunfire. Lena and I in that tiny cabin upstate, sipping wine and planning our future. Her smiling at me in the rain, holding my face like I was the only man in the world. Then the day she left. No note. No call. Just gone. I chased her for weeks. Filed a missing persons report. Called her mother. Nothing. I thought maybe she'd died. Or been kidnapped. Instead, she had vanished on purpose. You left me without a word, I said, my voice trembling. You broke me. And now you want sympathy. She lowered her head. I didn't have a choice. I scoffed. That's the best you've got? No, she said, looking me in the eyes. The truth is worse. But if I told you back then, they would have come for me. What are you talking about? She hesitated, looked around. Then she leaned in closer. My father, our father, Emily's and mine, he's not who you think he is. I shook my head. Emily never even talks about her dad. He left when she was a kid. Exactly, Lena whispered. Same with me. He disappeared when I was 11. But not before ruining my mother's life. Turns out, he had 2 families. 2 daughters. And when he found out I was digging into his past, he made it very clear I needed to stop. You're telling me he threatened you? No. He threatened my mom. And when I didn't back off, something happened. Her voice cracked. Her eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away. I was in a car accident 3 years ago, Jason. The week I was supposed to marry you. Someone cut the brake line. They said it was random. I don't think it was. My blood went cold. I was in a coma for 5 weeks, she continued. By the time I woke up, I could barely remember anything. I thought you hated me. I thought I'd ruined your life. You did, I whispered. She nodded. I know. And I'm sorry. But I need you to understand. I didn't walk away. I was taken. We stood there in silence. My hand still holding that DNA report. My heart still catching up to the truth. It didn't feel real. It felt like a movie you watch at 2 a.m. on some obscure channel. Dark, sad, twisted. And just when I thought I couldn't take any more, I heard a voice behind me. Jason. I turned. Emily. She stood there, her white dress catching the wind, her face pale, her mascara smudged. I heard everything, she said. All of it. Lena's face dropped. Emily's lips trembled. It's true, isn't it? You're her. Lena nodded slowly. Yes. Emily stumbled backward. I reached for her arm, but she pulled away. I didn't know you were her, Emily said to me. I swear. I didn't know, until recently. What do you mean recently? I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned and ran. People turned to watch. The bride, running through the garden. The groom, chasing after her. And the ghost of an old love, standing alone under the shadows of a secret family tree. I didn't know where Emily was going, but I knew this wedding was already over. And the worst part? It hadn't even really begun yet. I found Emily in the bridal suite. The white dress was wrinkled, her makeup smeared from tears. She sat on the edge of a velvet bench, staring at nothing, like her world had just crumbled, and maybe it had. When she heard me enter, she didn't look up. I should have told you, she whispered. I closed the door quietly behind me. My chest felt tight, like I was breathing through a straw. How long have you known? She swallowed hard. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks, Emily? We were about to get married. You were going to say I do knowing what? That your half-sister was the woman who vanished from my life. I didn't want it to be true, she said, finally looking at me. I thought it was some scam at first. Then I got the results. Same father. Same face. Same blood. I didn't know what to do. You could have told me, I said, anger rising in my voice. That's what people do when they're in love. They tell the truth. She stood up, shaking. And lose you? Lose everything we built. I stared at her. What do you think you've done now? That stopped her. She turned her back to me. For a long moment, the silence between us was louder than any scream. Finally, she said, I met him once, you know. My father. When I was 6. He smelled like whiskey and cologne. He gave me a teddy bear and then never came back. I thought he died or something. But to find out he had another daughter? A whole other life? It felt like someone punched a hole through my chest. I sat down across from her. My voice dropped. Emily, Lena thinks he's dangerous. She thinks he had something to do with her accident. I know, she said, almost too calmly. She told me that, too. A week ago. What? She came to see me, Emily said, facing me again. Before the wedding. She asked if I'd cancel it. Said it wasn't about jealousy, that you were better off not being caught in our father's shadow. She warned me. And you didn't believe her? I didn't want to. I told myself she was just bitter, trying to wreck what I had because she lost you. And now? Emily bit her lip. Now? I don't know. Everything about that moment felt surreal. The flowers, the cake, the vows. It was all a lie built on broken bones. But I needed more. I left Emily and walked straight back to find Lena. She was standing outside near the catering tent, alone again, her arms folded tightly across her chest like she was holding herself together with sheer will. "Why didn't you tell me everything from the beginning?" I asked. "Why the secrecy, the quiet entrances, the DNA kits? Why not just knock on my door 3 weeks ago?" "Because I didn't want to destroy your life," she said. "Turns out I did anyway." "No," I said. "What destroyed my life was the lie. And right now, I need the whole truth." She nodded. Her eyes darkened. "Okay, then come with me. There's something you need to see." We drove 2 hours north, through winding roads, past dead trees and empty farms, until we reached a rundown motel near the edge of a lake. She led me into a room that smelled like old smoke and forgotten summers. Inside, a woman waited. She was maybe in her late 50s. Thin, pale, eyes like Lena's, but hollowed out by years of grief. "My mom," Lena said quietly. I shook her hand, unsure what to say. Lena handed her a manila folder. The woman nodded, opened it, and slid out a collection of old photos and receipts. "He was charming," the woman said. "At first, said all the right things. Then he got possessive, controlling. When I got pregnant with Lena, he panicked, said she was a mistake and vanished. I found out later he had another wife in another state. Emily's mom. He came back when Lena was 10, the woman went on. Demanded to see her. When I refused, he made threats. Scared the hell out of us. One night, he broke in. I didn't call the cops. I just wanted him gone." I looked at Lena. "You never told me any of this." "I buried it," she said. "It's what my mom wanted. But when I got engaged to you, he showed up again. Said I didn't deserve happiness. That if I married into a decent family, I'd expose what he did." "He threatened you?" "And my mom," Lena said. "And then, a week before our wedding, the brakes on my car failed." My heart sank. I looked at the police report. It was there, dated. A note scribbled in the margin. No evidence of foul play. Driver error suspected. They called it an accident. It wasn't. I stepped outside for air. The lake reflected the cloudy sky. I could barely think. This wasn't just about lost love or a ruined wedding anymore. This was something deeper, dirtier. Someone wanted to bury a lifetime of shame, and they were willing to do anything to keep it hidden, even if it meant someone had to die. That night, Lena dropped me back at my apartment. She didn't ask to come in. "I'm sorry I crashed your wedding," she said softly. "But if I hadn't, would any of this ever come to light?" I looked at her, really looked at her. Not the woman who left me, not the stranger with secrets, but the girl I once loved. The girl who almost died trying to protect the truth. "No," I said. "I guess it wouldn't." She nodded. "Then I don't regret it." She got in her car and drove away. And I stood in the dark, holding a folder full of dirty secrets, wondering if I ever really knew the woman I was about to marry, wondering what kind of man her father truly was, and whether he'd come for me next. I barely slept that night. Lena's words echoed in my head. The photos, the police report, the DNA results. It all felt like the plot of a thriller I never agreed to star in. But now, I was right in the middle of it, with a half-married bride, an ex-fiancé who survived a possible murder attempt, and a father-in-law I'd never met who might be behind it all. The next morning, I got a call. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Jason speaking. The voice on the other end was deep, controlled, like someone used to having power. "Jason, I heard there was a little hiccup at the wedding." I didn't recognize him at first. "I'm sorry, who is this?" A pause. Then, "This is Richard, Emily's father." My blood went cold. He'd never called before. Never written. Never shown up. Emily told me he was out of the picture. And now, just like Lena, he was suddenly back. "I think we should talk," he said. "Why now?" "Because things are spiraling. And I don't like messes." There was something in his voice that made my skin crawl. Calm. Calculated. Like this wasn't the first time he'd cleaned up a mess. We agreed to meet in public. A quiet bar off the highway. When I arrived, he was already seated at a corner table, dressed in a dark blazer, sipping scotch at 10 a.m. Like a man used to breaking rules. "Jason," he said smoothly. "I was hoping we could clear the air." I sat across from him, heart pounding. "Go ahead. I understand you've been speaking to Lena. She's your daughter." "She's a complication," he corrected. "Emily is the one with a future. Lena, she's always been dramatic. Prone to stories. She almost died." He smiled faintly. "Accidents happen." "No. People make them happen." His eyes narrowed. "Are you accusing me of something, son?" "I'm not your son," I snapped. "I'm the guy your daughter was about to marry. Until the truth caught up with all of us." He leaned in. "Let me give you some advice. Families are complicated. But the past? It only becomes dangerous when you drag it into the light." "So you admit it," I said. "You had another family. You abandoned them. You tried to shut Lena up." He didn't flinch. "I did what I had to do. And I'll keep doing it." That's when I realized this wasn't a scared man. This was a professional liar. A man who'd been hiding in shadows for decades, who knew exactly how to make people disappear. I stood up, heart racing. If you touch Emily, Lena, or anyone else I care about, I'll burn your secrets to the ground. He chuckled. You think you're the first person to threaten me, Jason? No, I said, but I'll be the last. And I walked out. By the time I got home, I was shaking. I called Lena. No answer. Called again. Still nothing. I jumped in my car and drove to the address she gave me, the motel near the lake. Room 9. Door locked. Shades drawn. I banged hard. Lena, it's me. Open up. No response. Then I noticed the door wasn't locked. It was jammed. I shoved it open. The room was trashed. Sheets ripped off the bed. Mirror shattered. Her phone lying on the carpet. But no Lena. Panic hit me like a wave. I called the cops. Filed a report. Gave them everything. Her photo, her last location, even Richard's name. They took notes. Promised to look into it. But I could tell by the look on the officer's face, they didn't believe a word. To them, she was just a troubled woman who vanished again. To me, she was a walking target. And now she was missing, again. I went back to Emily. She opened the door in sweats, her eyes puffy from crying. She's gone, I said. She blinked. What do you mean, gone? Her motel room was ransacked. She left her phone. I think your father. She held up a hand. Stop. What? She looked at me, her voice trembling. I saw him today. I froze. Your dad. She nodded. He showed up out of nowhere. Said he wanted to talk. Said Lena was trying to destroy our lives. I didn't know what to believe. You didn't tell me? I was scared, Jason. He's my father. He's a criminal, I said. A manipulator. And now your sister, your blood, is gone. Doesn't that matter to you? She stared at me. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I saw something shift in her face. Doubt. Guilt. Maybe even fear. I didn't think it would go this far, she whispered. Well, it has. And if we don't find Lena fast, we may never see her again. She nodded slowly. Then she said something I didn't expect. There's something I never told you. I held my breath. She disappeared into her bedroom and came back holding a letter. No envelope. Just a single folded page. He sent this to me last week, she said. I didn't know what to do with it. I opened it. Typed. Clean. No fingerprints. Emily, family matters can be complicated. Some ghosts are better left buried. I suggest you keep your wedding on track. Your sister doesn't belong in your world. She never did. I stared at it. The tone, the warning, the threat. And suddenly I knew. Richard wasn't just dangerous. He was getting desperate. Because for the first time, his secrets were slipping out of his hands. And people were paying the price. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat with Lena's phone, trying to break into it, desperate for a clue, a contact, anything. And just when I was about to give up, a text popped up on the lock screen. From a blocked number. She's still alive. But not for long if you keep poking around. Walk away. No name. No location. Just a threat. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. They had her. And now they wanted me out of the way. But they made one mistake. They thought I would walk away. They didn't know me at all. The message haunted me. She's still alive. But not for long if you keep poking around. Walk away. I stared at Lena's phone screen, fists clenched, my pulse hammering like a war drum. They were watching me. Listening. And they had her. But if they thought a veiled threat would scare me off, they'd forgotten who I was. I wasn't walking away. I was coming for them. The first thing I did was copy the message. Screenshot. Timestamp. Then I turned off the phone and wrapped it in tinfoil before locking it in a drawer. I needed to stay unpredictable. Next, I drove straight to the one person who might still help me. Emily. She opened the door slowly, eyes bloodshot, clearly sleep-deprived. Jason, she said, her voice barely audible. I need your help, I told her. Not as your ex. Not as the guy you almost married. As someone trying to save your sister. She didn't speak for a long moment. Then nodded. Come in. We sat at her kitchen table. Coffee untouched. I laid everything out. Richard's message, Lena's disappearance, the break-in at the motel. Then I asked the hardest question. Emily, do you have any idea where your father would take her? She looked down, trembling. No. He never told me anything real. But there was a place. A house. What kind of house? When I was younger, she said slowly. He used to disappear for weekends. Said it was for work. But one time I found an old key in his drawer. It was labeled the cabin. I never asked about it. But I remember the tag had a town name on the back, Carver Hill. I pulled out my phone. Carver Hill, 2 hours north. Deep forest, minimal population. One gas station, one diner. Perfect place to hide someone. I need that key, I said. She hesitated. I still have it. I kept it out of habit. Can I borrow it? She nodded, walked to a drawer, rummaged, and came back holding a tarnished brass key on a faded leather tag. The cabin. It felt real now. I stood. I'm leaving now. I'm coming with you, she said. I froze. Emily. She's my sister. I need to do this. I nodded. We left within the hour. The road to Carver Hill was desolate. The kind of drive where time stretches and the trees look like they're leaning in, listening. Emily barely spoke. I could feel her battling guilt, fear, and maybe a little hope. 2 miles from the town line, we saw the turnoff. A small, crooked sign. Private road. Trespassers will be prosecuted. We turned anyway. The gravel path wound through dense pine forest, shadowed and quiet. After 10 minutes, a cabin emerged, weathered wood, boarded windows, and a satellite dish barely hanging off the roof. My heart pounded. Stay here, I told Emily. I approached slowly, each step crunching underfoot. The cabin looked dead. No lights, no noise. But I trusted my gut. I tried the key. It clicked. The door creaked open. I stepped inside, slowly, carefully. Dust floated in the sunlight, filtering through the cracks. Old furniture, faded photos, whiskey bottles. Then I heard it, a soft sound, barely audible. A whimper. I followed it to the back room. Door locked. Lena. I whispered. No reply. Just another faint sound, like someone trying to speak through duct tape. I kicked the door. Once. Twice. Third time. Crack. It flew open. And there she was, tied to a chair. Gagged. Bruised. Eyes wide. I rushed forward, yanked the gag away. She gasped. Jason, he's coming back. Not if I get you out now. I untied her fast. She collapsed into my arms, weak but alive. Emily ran in behind me. Oh my God, she whispered, seeing her sister. The two of them locked eyes. For a second, the chaos melted. It was just blood recognizing blood. We have to go? Now, I said. We rushed to the car. But as soon as we hit the gravel road, a black SUV appeared ahead, blocking the path. It was him. Richard. He stepped out. Calm. Dressed in black. Gun in hand. You really should have stayed out of this, he called. I stepped in front of the girls. Let them go, I said. This ends with me. Oh, it does end with you, he said. But not how you think. Then Lena did something I didn't expect. She stood tall, despite her wounds, and shouted, You're not my father. You're a coward. And I'm not afraid anymore. Richard raised the gun, but Emily stepped beside her. So go ahead, she said. Shoot your daughters. Finish the job. Just know, if you do, I'll make sure the entire world knows who you really are. She held up her phone. She had been recording the whole time. His hand trembled. And for the first time, he looked scared. I could almost hear the mask cracking. The cops arrived 5 minutes later. Turns out, when I filed that report about Lena, a young officer took it seriously. Started digging. Cross-referenced everything. Then Emily had sent the GPS coordinates from her phone, just in case. Backup came just in time. Richard tried to run. Didn't get far. He was arrested. For kidnapping. Attempted murder. Fraud. And worst of all, for finally being seen. Back in the city, the news broke fast. Businessman arrested in shocking family scandal. Lena stayed in the hospital for a few days. Emily visited every day. Slowly, they talked more. Shared memories. Pain. Maybe even began healing. As for me, I sat alone on my balcony one night, staring at the skyline. Everything had changed. The wedding never happened. The life I imagined gone. But something better had taken its place. Truth. And maybe peace. For now, 6 weeks passed. But nothing felt normal. Richard was behind bars, but his shadow still lingered over everything, like smoke you couldn't scrub from the walls. The media frenzy had exploded the day of his arrest. Headlines screamed betrayal, scandal, hidden families, double lives. Lena's face, bruised and blinking in a hospital bed, had become a symbol of survival, of secrets unraveling. Emily disappeared from public view for a while. She needed space. But we kept talking, me, her, and Lena. The three of us, slowly piecing together years of damage none of us saw coming. Then, just as the dust began to settle, the subpoena arrived. We were all being called to testify. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, spectators, lawyers, family friends who hadn't called in years. But all I saw was Richard, sitting there in a crisp suit like nothing happened. His eyes calm, mouth set in that familiar smug smirk. He looked more like a CEO at a business meeting than a man on trial for kidnapping and attempted murder. But his legal team? Top-notch. Obnoxiously confident. And expensive. They were running the doubt playbook. Paint Lena as emotionally unstable. Suggest her injuries were exaggerated. Claim the kidnapping was a misunderstanding. A misguided attempt at family reconciliation. It made my blood boil. Then Lena took the stand. And changed everything. She didn't cry. She didn't tremble. She told the truth, with fire in her voice. How Richard disappeared from her and her mother's life when she was 4. How he paid them hush money through a fake foundation. How, When she found out about Emily, she tried to reconnect, only to be threatened, silenced, and finally attacked. The courtroom was dead silent. Even Richard looked rattled. Then it was my turn. I described the wedding crash, the motel room, the bruises, the cabin, the SUV, the gun. The DA showed the recording Emily took, Richard with the weapon, threatening his daughters. The jury watched every frame. And for the first time, the monster behind the businessman was fully visible. But then, his defense struck back. They called a surprise witness. A woman. Polished. Blonde. Expensive jewelry. She introduced herself as Vanessa Mayfield, Richard's longtime assistant. She claimed she had orchestrated the cabin meeting. Said she had taken Lena there to de-escalate the situation. Claimed Richard showed up later, furious she'd acted without permission. Lie after lie spilled from her lips. And somehow, the jury listened. The prosecutor objected, but the damage was done. Doubt had been seated again. I looked over at Lena. Her fists were clenched. Emily leaned in and whispered to her, "We need to find out who she really is." That night, we got our answer. Emily dug through her father's old records, things she'd stored after his arrest. Letters, contracts, bank slips, and in one folder a photo. Vanessa Mayfield, real name, Anna Russo. And next to her, a young Lena, smiling, in a park. My jaw dropped. Emily read aloud from an old document. "She was our nanny," she whispered. "Back when I was 3. My mom fired her after a fight with my dad." Lena blinked. "I don't remember that. She must have stayed in touch with him. It was all a setup." Anna Russo wasn't some assistant. She was a loyal soldier. Someone who'd been quietly cleaning up Richard's messes for years. And now, she was lying under oath to save him. We took the evidence to the DA the next morning. They were shocked. Promised to dig deeper. Said it could lead to a perjury charge and possible conspiracy. But by then, something worse had happened. Richard made bail. $1 million. Paid in full. We found out from a news alert. Breaking. Richard Kingsley released pending trial. Lena dropped the phone. "He's out." Emily turned pale. "That's not possible." "It is," I said. "And now he's desperate. Because he knew we had the truth. And truth makes powerful men dangerous." We doubled security. Moved Lena into a friend's apartment under a fake name. I stayed with her every night, sleeping with a bat under my bed. Emily changed her locks. Installed cameras. Filed for a restraining order. But fear is like a fog. It seeps through cracks. And it got worse when we noticed the car. Black sedan. Same one from the cabin. Parked down the street from Lena's safe house. 2 nights in a row. I walked out toward it the second night. Heart racing, fists clenched. But when I got close, it drove off. No plates. That was the message. He was still watching. Still trying to scare us. But it wasn't working anymore. The next court date was set for 2 weeks later. We'd have a chance to introduce the nanny's real identity. The fake name. The connection to Richard. It would break their defense. But we knew they'd try something first. We just didn't know what. Until Lena got the letter. No name. Just a single sentence typed on white paper. "There's a reason your mother never told you everything. You don't know the worst part yet." She showed it to me, hands shaking. "This isn't over," she said. "He's still trying to rip us apart." I stared at the note. And suddenly, chills ran down my spine. Because I realized something. The letter wasn't for Lena. It was for Emily. The letter. That single sentence. "There's a reason your mother never told you everything. You don't know the worst part yet." It was like a ticking bomb in Emily's hand. Her face turned pale. Then something broke behind her eyes. "What does it mean?" I asked. She didn't answer. She just walked out the door. I chased her down to the street. "Emily, where are you going?" She turned to me, trembling. "To my mother." Her mom lived on the east side. Gated condo, pristine landscaping. The kind of life Richard had polished to perfection. Emily barely knocked before storming in. Her mother looked surprised, but not shocked. Like she'd been expecting this. "I want the truth," Emily said. Her voice was quiet, but sharp. Like a knife she'd been holding back for years. "About what?" her mother asked, playing innocent. Emily dropped the letter on the coffee table. "You kept secrets. I need to know what you were protecting me from." Silence. Then, her mother sat down slowly. Tears welled up in her eyes. "It wasn't about protecting you," she said. "It was about surviving him." And then, the floodgates opened. Richard had been controlling since the start. Manipulative. Dangerous in quiet ways. But when Emily was 5, her mother found out about another woman. One with a baby girl. Lena. She confronted him. Furious. He didn't deny it. He said, "You leave me, and I'll ruin you. But if you stay, I'll keep the other one hidden. Forever." So she stayed. Not for love. For fear. And guilt. She agreed to act like Lena never existed. In exchange, she and Emily could live untouched. Perfect lives in a perfect shell. But it didn't stop there. Over the years, Richard paid Lena's mother to stay silent. But when that woman got sick and Lena started digging, he panicked. And that's when the threats began. When I crashed the wedding, everything spiraled. The two lives Richard had balanced, like two spinning plates, finally crashed together. And now, with the trial looming, he wasn't trying to silence Lena anymore. He was trying to destroy Emily, the only person who could expose him as not just a liar and criminal, but as a fraud in every part of his life. Her mother sobbed. I should have told you everything, but I was afraid. I thought keeping you away from that side of him would protect you. Emily stood frozen, then quietly said, he's out on bail, watching us, threatening Lena. Me. Her mother nodded. And for the first time, she said, then it's time to finish this. We returned home and got to work. Lena and Emily dug up everything. Documents, bank slips, photos. I worked with the DA to fast-track the evidence on Richard's perjury and witness tampering. Then we did the unthinkable. We went public. Emily agreed to do an exclusive interview. Live. National television. The daughter of Richard Kingsley, the media darling businessman, now speaking out as a victim. She didn't hold back. She spoke of two families. Lies. Blackmail. The kidnapping. The fake assistant. The trial. And most of all, the truth Richard tried to bury. That his empire was built on control, secrecy, threats. The internet blew up. Within 48 hours, Richard was rearrested. Bail revoked. His legal team withdrew from the case. And then came the final twist. The morning of his final hearing, the prison called. Richard had collapsed in his cell. Heart attack. Minor, but enough to get him wheeled into a hospital. The moment felt anticlimactic. But then, the nurse on duty told the DA something chilling. Richard had been writing a letter. To whom? We didn't know. But the next day, it showed up at Emily's door. One final message. You think you've won. But I still built you. I still own you. And you'll never outrun my shadow. No signature. No apology. Just poison. Emily read it once. Then burned it. The trial ended without a full jury. Richard took a deal. 20 years in prison. No chance of parole for 10. But the damage had already been done. His businesses crumbled. His partners vanished. The media tore him apart. Lena went on to publish a memoir, telling her side of the story. Emily started a non-profit for survivors of domestic manipulation and family abuse. She called it The Second Truth. And me? I went quiet for a while. Left the city. Cleared my head. Sometimes I still think about the day I crashed that wedding. The cake, the screaming, the looks on their faces. I thought I was ruining a marriage. But I was actually breaking a curse. One that had been passed down in silence. And now, finally, it was over. Not with a gun. Not in a courtroom. But with two sisters, standing together. And walking away free.